There is a city that has never been found. A civilization so advanced, so powerful, and so utterly destroyed that not a single stone has ever been confirmed as its remains. And yet for 2,400 years, humanity has refused to stop looking. This is the story of Atlantis. And the truth behind it is stranger than the legend. The story begins not with a discovery, but with a single man. In 360 BC, a Greek philosopher named Plato wrote about a mighty civilization that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. He described a nation of extraordinary wealth and power, built on a series of concentric rings of land and water, with a great temple at its center. He said it was larger than Libya and Asia combined. He said its people were descendants of the god Poseidon himself. And he said that in a single day and night of catastrophic floods and earthquakes, it sank beneath the ocean. 9,000 years before his own time. That was Plato's account. And for more than 2 millennia, people have been arguing about what he meant. Some scholars believe Plato invented Atlantis entirely, that it was a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale about the corruption of power and the punishment that follows pride. Plato was, after all, a philosopher. Not a historian. Not a geographer. His dialogues were full of invented characters and fictional frameworks used to explore real ideas. Perhaps Atlantis was simply the most elaborate one. But here is the problem with that theory. Plato was extraordinarily specific. He gave dimensions. He gave timelines. He gave geographic coordinates. He described the layout of the city in architectural detail, the types of stone used, the colors of the walls, the width of the canals. He named the kings. He described the laws. Philosophers who want to make a point do not typically invent cadastral surveys. The level of specificity is either the work of someone drawing from a real source, or the most elaborate fictional world-building in ancient history. And Plato claimed, explicitly, that the story was not fiction. He said it came from Egyptian priests who had told it to the Athenian statesman Solon roughly 200 years earlier. He called it, in his own words, genuinely true. So which is it? Over the centuries, researchers have placed Atlantis in dozens of locations. The Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, the Caribbean, Antarctica, the Azores, the Canary Islands, the Bahamas. Every generation produces a new candidate and a new book explaining why this time, finally, we have found it. None of them have produced definitive proof. But in the 1960s, a discovery on the Greek island of Santorini changed the conversation permanently. Beneath layers of volcanic ash, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a Bronze Age city called Akrotiri. It was extraordinary. Multi-story buildings, indoor plumbing, sophisticated frescoes covering the walls. A civilization clearly advanced far beyond what was expected for its time, roughly 1600 BC. And then, around that same date, one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history tore the island apart. The Minoan eruption of Thera, as it is now known, was so powerful that it may have generated tsunamis over 150 feet tall. It darkened skies across the eastern Mediterranean for years. It may have contributed to the collapse of the Minoan civilization, one of the most advanced cultures of the ancient world. A sophisticated island civilization. Destroyed suddenly. Swallowed by the sea. The parallels to Atlantis are difficult to ignore. But the timeline doesn't quite match. Plato said Atlantis existed 9,000 years before his time, placing it around 9,600 BC. The Minoan eruption happened around 1,600 BC. That is an 8,000-year discrepancy. Unless, and this is where it gets interesting, Plato's Egyptian sources made an error. Some researchers have proposed that the Egyptian scribes who originally recorded the story were working in a numerical system that counted in months, not years. If you divide 9,000 by 12, you get 750 years, which places the event squarely within the time frame of the Minoan catastrophe. A transcription error. A unit conversion mistake. passed down through centuries. And suddenly the timeline fits. It is not proof. But it is not nothing. Then there is the matter of what lies beneath the waters near the Bahamas. In 1968, a diver named J. Manson Valentine discovered something off the coast of North Bimini Island. A long, organized formation of flat rectangular stones, laid in a clear pattern along the ocean floor, stretching for nearly half a mile. It became known as the Bimini Road. Some geologists insist it is a natural formation, a type of limestone that fractures in rectangular patterns under certain conditions. But other researchers point out that the stones show signs of having been worked and fitted. That some of the blocks are stacked in a way that does not occur naturally. That the formation aligns with specific astronomical positions. The debate has never been definitively resolved. The Bimini Road remains officially unexplained. And then there is the most unsettling possibility of all. In 2011, a team of researchers led by Professor Richard Freund announced that satellite imagery had revealed a possible submerged city in the marshlands of southern Spain, in a region called Doñana National Park, near the mouth of the Guadalquivir River. The imagery showed what appeared to be concentric rings of land and water, matching Plato's description almost exactly. The team found nearby memorial cities built in the same pattern, which they interpreted as refugee settlements built by survivors after a catastrophic flood. The Spanish government did not allow full excavation. Freund's findings were disputed by other archaeologists. And the site remains largely unexplored. But the concentric rings are there. Visible from space. Matching a description written 2,400 years ago. Here is what we know for certain. Advanced civilizations did exist before the ones we typically call ancient. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, discovered in 1994, pushed the origins of complex human society back by at least 6,000 years beyond what archaeologists had previously believed possible. We now know that organized, sophisticated human communities existed as far back as 10,000 BC. Exactly when Plato said Atlantis did. We also know that sea levels at the end of the last ice age rose dramatically, swallowing coastal settlements, plains, and entire land masses that were once inhabited. Hundreds of ancient sites now lie underwater. Many have never been found. Many never will be. The ocean is not a museum. It does not preserve. It destroys. So is Atlantis real? The honest answer is that we do not know. What we do know is that Plato describes something with a level of detail that demands an explanation. That catastrophic civilizational collapses did occur in the ancient world. That the ocean has swallowed more history than we will ever recover. And that every decade, new discoveries push the boundaries of what we thought was possible further back into the past. Perhaps Atlantis was a real place that no longer exists in any recoverable form. Perhaps it was a memory, distorted across centuries of retelling, of a real disaster that destroyed a real civilization. Perhaps it was exactly what Plato said it was, a true story, told to him by people who had no reason to lie. Or perhaps it was always a story. A story about what happens when a civilization becomes too powerful, too arrogant, too certain of its own permanence. And if that is the lesson Plato intended, then Atlantis is not a lost city. It is a warning. One that has been waiting 2,400 years for someone to take it seriously. Subscribe to Lost Chronicle, and every week we will take you deeper into the cases that history could not explain.